was born in 1922 in British Columbia, hosted logging executives, managed mission routes to the edge of civilization, and even spent time as a tug in the rugged Pacific Northwest. Today she's solar-powered, full of heart and history, and cruising the Northwest coast once again. Meet Argonaut II and her current steward, Nicholas Verrochi, a man as committed to her future as those who once trusted her with theirs. He lives aboard full-time and shares their journeys on his YouTube channel. He charters her to those seeking a different kind of luxury, history, heritage, and genuine soul. Join us as he takes us on a detailed tour of this storied boat.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So my name is Nicholas Verrochi. I am the owner and steward of Argonaut II. Argonaut to me is a very special boat. While a lot of these beautiful boats are, historically corporate yachts or work boats, etc., Argonaut was very public-facing. It was a mission boat for most of its life, from the early 1930s to the late 1960s, and traveled up and down the coastline of British Columbia, touching the lives of all these communities of lighthouses and canneries, remote logging operations, First Nation communities, and homesteaders. So it would have a minister on board and his wife, an engineer and a captain, and they would every 6 weeks or so visit about 50 ports of call up and down the northern coastline of British Columbia. Throughout its years, Argonaut has lived a few different lives. It was actually originally a corporate yacht built in 1922 for the Powell River Paper and Pulp Company. And so that was its original function, but when the church bought it in 1936, they did a lot of modifications to it. They repowered the boat with a Gardner 6L3 diesel engine and had a few different upgrades for mainly focusing on heavy use traveling up and down the coastline. The United Church mission, which was from Smith Inlet, kind of north of Cape Caution, Rivers Inlet, all the way up to Low Inlet. So it's kind of the northern third of the BC coastline, very remote. It would average about 1,200 miles a month, 50 weeks a year, and did it for about 40-something years up and down the coastline. So that was its main history. And then towards the end of its life as a mission boat, it was actually purchased by a marine services company and operated as a tugboat in the late 60s before becoming a private yacht, 1972 till today.
Just a ton of history.
Yeah, a ton of history.
Yeah, take us through.
Yeah, I'd love to take you down. So we're walking through the aft companionway into the main salon. And I'll first step aft towards the back of the boat, where this is guest quarters, and there's an aft head, which is worth peeking your head at. It's very much kept up from the 1940s or so when the church did most of the renovations of this boat. And again, it was originally a corporate yacht, and so you'll see as we walk through, the aft half of the boat is very much focused towards the luxury side of the boat, and then as we walk forward through the engine room to the forward stateroom is where historically the engineer and captain and crew would stay aboard.
Very comfortable,
very comfortable. Yeah. The boat can sleep quite a few folks. As we walk forward to the salon, this is a private aft stateroom with 2 bunks here. So as you walk in forward into the main salon, this is the kind of the aesthetic of the United Church. You can see the stained glass on the cabinetry here. The salon converts actually to bunks, and so the backs of the salon will fold up for 4 additional bunks in the main salon. People often ask how many people does the boat sleep. I actually have 9 beds, and you could cram a few more people than that if you wish to, but I typically charter the boat for 2 to 4 people for overnight charters. It's a very comfortable boat, and guests have a completely private space back here, which is separated by 4 bulkheads to the crew quarters where I stay forward. Yeah, and then this is the stained glass is what I use as a cupboard, and also store all my dishware, cutlery. There's a built-in fridge that actually extends all the way out to the ceiling of the boat, so I can actually provision about 4 or 5 months of food on board, no problem, which I did the last couple seasons when I went north into Canada.
Do you live aboard?
I live aboard full time.
Okay.
Down in Seattle, in Ballard, and then in the summertime, I typically for the past few years have gone cruising, trying to document the history of the boat on my own YouTube channel, and have been sharing that to kind of foster or build a community around this boat and bring it back to a public facing setting. And then this past year, I've been mostly around the San Juan Islands and the Gulf Islands, chartering the boat full time.
Rough life.
Yeah, it's been a it's a lot of work. It's been an absolutely incredible experience for me. I left my corporate job this year to go full time on the boat, and am prepping for a big restoration project this fall. We're going to be replanking the port side. We're looking at probably around 80 planks and about the same number of frames. And then if we can tackle it, the aft stern post, we're trying to, spring out all the planking material and replace it.
What is the construction?
The boat is planked with Port Orford Cedar on oak frames with Douglas fir decks, and then the house and the railings are completely teak. Almost everything you see on the boat is original. I've been slowly chipping away at replacing the planking material on the starboard side. And then this fall, I'll be working on everything from the sponson down to replace all the planks, frames, and then this. If we can find some stern timbers, we'll be replacing the stern post as well.
Sure. And you're doing all that work up here in Port Townsend?
Going to be doing all that here in Port Townsend. You have the best access, I think, to talent and resources, materials. As we walk forward into the galley here, galley's not original. There's a lot I would love to do to this galley. This has been kind of a quick fix just so I can host, and I love to cook and cater to charter guests, etc. But this is a future project would be to put back the old diesel stove on the boat, and then I'd like to convert the countertops to a wooden cabinetry and a copper sink and make it more error appropriate.
But it's super functional. I mean,
very functional. Very nice. I live and love to cook and host, and so I do a lot of cooking at this galley and love to host big dinners and stuff.
And more natural light coming through in the.
Yeah, we should go back and look at all the details of the fixtures, even the light poles and the little anchors.
Yeah.
The butterfly hatch fixtures. Then I have some really cool fixtures opening the windows here. If you want to take a quick look, these are really cool and they're kind of hidden. So the butterfly hatches in the salon are operated by this really neat fixture that will push the window out and pull it back in, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's excellent. That's fantastic.
So kind of a neat thing. So, all right, let's walk forward into the engine room. This is the main engine room, and it's kind of a highlight on the boat. Obviously, there's a ton of access to all the systems. The boat is powered by a Gardner 6L3. This is not the original power of the boat, which is a big 3-cylinder Fairbanks Morse. But this engine was installed in 1940 and has somewhere between 120 and 150,000 hours on it. Obviously, it's been rebuilt a couple times, but it still runs great. It's an air start system, which means that you use high pressure compressed air at 230 psi to essentially run half the engine through an air manifold using compressed air to push the cylinders, and then you can manually compress each cylinder in sequence to get the engine up and running. Work that I've done on the boat, I've stepped everything down from 32 volts to 24 volts and put 1,600 watts of solar on the roof. And so I am slowly moving towards trying to be completely off-grid solar, no longer needing the generator, the genset here, which I really only utilize in case I run out of air. I can make back air with an auxiliary compressor over here.
That's fantastic. I'm sorry. How many watts of solar?
1,600 watts of solar. Yep. Yeah, 400 watt panels. And in the summertime, I can even cook with electric. I have all induction cooktops that I pull out, air fryer, everything. And then in the wintertime, it's a lot harder to do that. So I'm slowly working to hopefully switch to lithium, increase my storage, and then I have room for even more solar power if I need to.
But this is just a proper engine room where you stand up, get to everything.
Really cool engine room.
Yeah.
Engine still runs for the most part just fine. It's all manual. I'm chain to cable steering. That's running on the sides of the engine room, and then this is all chain to cable for my throttle and reduction gear. It is a Gardner reduction gear, which they made for a few years. This is one of the last pre-war engines to come out of England before they actually started using this engine in all the landing craft on the D-Day landing craft boats. It was originally, it's a locomotive engine that was converted to a marine application. And then the more modern version of this engine, I think late 1940s, are in all those red double-decker buses that you see running around.
Great.
Something like that. So
That's great.
Yeah, so I have another head forward with a shower.
So you have your own YouTube channel.
So I have my own YouTube channel,
Yeah.
and what I originally focused on was documenting sort of the magic and the history of this boat, because it's a story worth being told.
Absolutely.
And then as I started putting videos out, and actually I had put a video out on the engine, that's what kind of launched the channel. I've been building a lot of community, and I'm turning towards that community to help me actually restore the vessel. That's also been a great platform. A lot of YouTube fans have been wanting to charter the boat, so all my charters this summer, 100% of them, have been through the YouTube following that I have, and people are flying from all over the country and like really getting involved in this boat. And another really cool thing is that YouTube platform has allowed me to reach a lot of the folks that grew up with this boat. So as I travel up and down the coastline, I have every little remote village or town that I visit, the whole town will come and visit and tell me stories about how their parents were married on this boat or christened on this boat or had their tonsils removed or whatever. They'll show me pictures of them as a kid. Some magical moments I've had. I've met
that's phenomenal.
the engineer. Actually ran into that engineer sailing, waving to me. He gave me his phone number over the radio, and I met up with him. He was the engineer on this boat in 1959. His name's Phil Little. He and his wife Nancy, still cruise up and down that coastline.
Yeah.
And then they introduced me to a man named Bob Burrows, who was the minister on this boat from 1960 to 1962. He and his wife lived aboard up in Ocean Falls. Their daughter,
amazing.
who was 63 years old, was born on this boat.
Wow.
And so that's been really one of the magical things about this boat is as I go up and down the coastline, everywhere I go, I meet people that are connected to this boat, and it's touched lives of thousands of people up and down the coastline, which I think really makes this boat a standout vessel and something worth saving. So as I tell that story, I am getting into contact and reaching out to more and more people connected with the boat, and then also building a community that is standing up behind me to try to fundraise and restore the vessel. So that's been a really cool experience for me. All right, if you want to continue the tour forward. So this is right in here. I'm just going to point this out. This is sort of the brain of the Wood Freeman Autopilot. And so this is one of the original models of the Wood Freeman. What's cool about this is it's all manual. I can pop open the top if you like. How it works is there is a electric motor attached to the helm, and you point the boat in the direction that you want to go and engage a clutch. Engage the electric motor. As that motor turns, it turns a torsion cable, and this right here is a compass. And on the compass are a couple of cat whiskers that will, as the compass turns, will make an electrical contact and tell the motor to essentially turn the other direction. And it's always hunting. It's a hunting autopilot, so it's always turning in one direction until that cat whisker hits and says, "Oh, we're going where we want to go." It'll go the other way a little bit and search for it again. So if the boat drifts off course, it'll just keep hunting and hunting and hunting until it finds that course again.
That's
which is pretty cool. It's all mechanical.
Yeah,
no real electronics really in the autopilot. So it still works, still functioning. Walking forward here is the forward stateroom. This is where I live. I have done nothing to this room. It's a lot more basic. Back from when the boat was, crewed by, an engineer and a captain. But what I'd like to do here is throw some of the same mahogany ceilings on the frames that you see in the other parts of the boat. I was able to redo these floors. When I purchased the boat, it was green carpet on plywood. And I have kind of a strong opinion that carpet shouldn't exist on a boat. So I put this is all
certainly not green carpet.
Old growth Doug fir with mahogany trim. Beautiful. And then forward of here, I have a bunch of hanging lockers and a chain locker. And we'll go take a look at the windlass. But
you certainly don't lack for storage.
Yeah, there's no lack of storage. I have plenty of room for, it's just me on the boat. And so I have plenty of room for...
And nice sized bed, great leg room.
Yeah. I'll take a look here. These are old firefighting nozzles for when the boat was sold to that marine services company. It ran as a tugboat, but also had a lot of firefighting equipment and pumps. A lot of those pumps and piping and everything has been ripped out of the boat, but the previous owners had the foresight to save some of the fixtures, and so there's the old firefighting pump is hanging on the wall in the engine room, and then these nozzles right here, just parts of the boat. All right, so now I'm going to go up the main companionway stairs up into the pilot house. So it's kind of steep. Yeah, here's the pilot house. What's cool is we have a lot of original systems that are still working today. Original ship's wheel, and you can see the radiators for heating. It's hot water heated in the wintertime. What's cool is I think the collection of signal flags is
I saw that
still
as I came
original.
aboard.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Then aft here, this bench actually folds down into a seat, and I have all original instrumentation for the most part. I'm looking at my water temperature off the exhaust manifold, oil pressure, air pressure to the pneumatic air start system.
Yeah, the amount of what's original in here is just
It's pretty cool. And
unbelievable.
even the navigation equipment, the old slide rule and sight glass,
Yeah.
that's actually my foghorn, which is very loud, and I still use it because if I use my normal horn or whistle, I run out of air too quickly, and so it's still a functional foghorn.
You feel the history up here, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Original compass.
Original compass, original iPad.
Original iPad, that's on. You don't see that anymore.
But it's mounted, it still has the old deviation tables and stuff for paper chart calculation.
Sure.
Or navigation. And then walking aft here is where I spend most of my time. And the table's busy because I'm set up for the boat show, but this is the chart room. And originally it had a really cool wood stove here and a box organ, which there's a photo of in this magazine. So the boat during its time as a mission boat, here it is. Here's the wood stove forward, and then the box organ that's currently located in the Victoria Maritime Museum.
Is it really?
And along with a ship model. So one of the models that they have as you walk through the museum is of Argonaut, which is pretty cool.
And Argonaut blend coffee.
And Argonaut blend coffee.
original-
We're using as a fundraiser for the haul out. So
Great idea.
yeah, trying my best.
I hope we're getting it across on video, but it's just breathtaking. Just everything so original and feel is just so authentic. And absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. It's starting to become a really nice day here
Yeah,
at
it
the
is.
show. So forward I have actually the original ship's bell. So the boat was originally named Greta M. And Greta M was the wife of one of the corporate executives of the paper company I was talking about. I'm actually in touch with her great-great-granddaughter,
Really?
which is really cool.
Yeah, it
And
is.
I've made a few contacts of different people from the time as a corporate yacht, mostly through the YouTube channel. Then the boat was named Thomas Crosby 4 as the mission boat, and then is now Argonaut. This right here is a really cool windlass. It's not the original windlass. The church installed this around 1940. I'm not sure the exact date. But I have a 240-pound Navy anchor with 475 feet of half-inch chain, which is plenty of ground tackle.
Yeah.
And so when I go cruising up north in British Columbia, I'm very comfortable in 90-foot, 100, 120-foot anchorages.
Sure. Just stunning. Nicholas, I can't thank you enough for taking the time during a busy boat show, day one. But this has just been a real pleasure and treat to get aboard. Argonaut II. We are going to have links to your contact information, links to your YouTube channel, and all the information that we can provide in the description. Leave comments for Nicholas, leave comments for us. Let us know what you think of Argonaut II. It is absolutely stunning, and we'll see you in the next video.
All right. Thanks for coming aboard. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.